All right, let's dive right in. We are going to crack open the science behind one of nature's most powerful, most incredible phenomena. A force so immense that thinking of it as just a storm, well, that doesn't really do it justice. A better way to think about it? A giant engine. Today, we are breaking down the hurricane. But first, I've got a question for you. What is a heat engine the size of a country? Seriously, think about that. An engine powered by heat that can literally span an entire country. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But it's totally real. And you guessed it, we're talking about a hurricane.
So, Section 1, a storm is born. Okay, to really get a handle on this massive engine, we've got to go right back to the very beginning. Like, how does a storm like this even come to be?
So, at its core, the definition is pretty simple, right? A hurricane is just a huge storm that kicks up over warm ocean waters near the equator. But, and this is a big but, don't let that simplicity fool you, because those two ingredients, warm water and the location near the equator, they're not just ingredients, they're basically the spark plugs for the giant engine we're about to fire up.
All right, next up, the hurricane's engine, how a storm gets its fuel. This really brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer. The absolute best way to understand a hurricane is to stop thinking of it as just a storm and start thinking of it as a colossal engine. So let's pop the hood and see exactly how this thing gets its fuel. Okay, so check out this cycle. It's kind of beautiful in how simple yet incredibly powerful it is. It all starts with step 1, warm, moist air over the ocean starts to rise up. As it goes up, what happens? Step 2, it leaves behind this area of low pressure. Now, nature doesn't like a vacuum, so step 3, air from all around, which is cooler and higher pressure, rushes in to fill that empty space. But then, and here's the kicker, that new air, step 4, it gets warmed up by the ocean, gets all moist, and it rises too. And that's it, that's the loop. Step 5, the whole process just keeps repeating, creating this incredible self-fueling feedback cycle that just pulls in more and more air, building up the clouds and the spin that eventually becomes a monster hurricane.
And right there, that's why the engine analogy is just so perfect. I mean, think about it. The storm is literally using the warm, moist air from the ocean as its fuel. And just like any engine, as long as you keep feeding it fuel, in this case, that warm water, it's just going to keep running, keep growing, and keep getting stronger.
Okay, Section 3, Anatomy of the Storm, a look inside. So we've seen how the engine starts up, but what does one of these things actually look like on the inside? Let's peel back the layers and do a little dissection of a full-blown hurricane. First off, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale we're talking about here. 300 miles. These storms are absolutely gigantic. A mature hurricane can stretch 300 miles across. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, that's like a single storm system big enough to swallow the entire state of Florida. Just wow. Now, right in the dead center of all that spinning chaos, you find what is, honestly, the most fascinating part of the whole thing, the eye. It's this bizarrely calm, sometimes even sunny area. It's just a strange little pocket of total peace, completely surrounded by absolute fury. But surrounding that calm little center is where things get really, really dangerous. We're talking about the eye wall. Now, this is a pretty narrow band, maybe only 5 to 30 miles wide, but don't let the size fool you. This is where you'll find the most violent, most destructive winds in the entire storm. It's the powerhouse. And then, spiraling out from that intense eye wall, you get the rain bands. You can think of these as the vast arms of the storm, reaching out for anywhere from 50 to, get this, 300 miles. They're these huge bands of dense clouds, and they're what give the hurricane that classic, almost mesmerizing pinwheel look you see in pictures from space. Next section, gauging the gale, measuring a hurricane's might. So, okay, we've got this massive spinning structure, but how do we actually measure how powerful it is? Well, that's where the famous hurricane categories come into play. It's all about figuring out just how mighty this gale really is. So you've probably heard about this before. Hurricanes get rated on a scale from 1 to 5, and it's based purely on one thing, sustained wind speed. Now look, any hurricane is a serious deal, but the whole game really changes once you hit Category 3. That's the threshold. That's when winds get over 111 miles per hour, and we officially enter the realm of major hurricanes. And trust me, that major label means they're capable of causing absolutely devastating damage. All right, our final section, a giant's power, the global context. Now let's pull the camera back one last time, just to put the power of this giant into a global perspective. And I gotta warn you, the numbers we're about to talk about, they're kind of hard to even wrap your head around.
Okay, get ready for this. Here is a truly staggering way to think about it. A large hurricane, it releases the energy equivalent of 10 atomic bombs every single second. Let that sink in. Not one bomb, not 10 bombs total. 10 atomic bombs exploding every second the storm is raging. That is a mind-boggling amount of continuous power, and it's all generated from just warm water and air.
So you've probably heard different names for these things, right? Hurricane, typhoon, what's the difference? Well, there isn't one, really. They are the exact same phenomenon, the exact same kind of giant engine we've been talking about. The only difference is geography. If it forms in the Atlantic, we call it a hurricane. If it forms in the Pacific, we call it a typhoon. Same storm, different name. And this brings everything we've talked about together for one final, really critical thought. Okay, so we've established it, right? A hurricane is a heat engine. Its fuel is warm ocean water. So here's the big question to leave you with. As our planet's oceans continue to get warmer, what do you think happens when the fuel source for these giant engines becomes more and more abundant? It's a huge question, and it directly connects the mechanics of this one storm to the much, much larger story of our changing world.